are you saying then that you don't see any good in in Ghana's outreach through the year of return and beyond return and
Rosa Whitaker, who was the first diplomat to be made a trade officer by Clinton, who wrote the African Growth and Opportunity Act, the fact that the U.S. Department of Commerce now has an Africa Business Exchange Department, that's to promote Western interests. So we're not looking to set the United States Agency for International Development is spread all throughout Africa. Eritrea is the only country in Africa to kick them out. They have to go, but we have to be ready to step in and do for our people. So no, 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 no. So anything that the West is doing, it's not in the best interest of Africa, but we make it, but our people's genuine desire to embrace Africa, we want that. We've been true to Christianity, true to Islam, true to Buddhism, true to Judaism since we created it in the first place. So it's time to be true to Africa, no doubt about it. But we're going to do it in what's Africa's best interest. And they think, and we look at what they're setting up. Obama, before he left office, he set up Yali, the Young African Leadership Institute. You know about that. That was set up to make sure you have no more Nkrumahs, you have no more Lumumbas, you have no more Sekou Touré's, you have no more Modibo Keitas. The fact that the Huffington Post put out an article saying that Mansa Musa was the richest man in the world, worth $400 billion. If he had $400 billion, that meant that the rest of Mali was at his mercy. Do we want Mali to look like it did under Modibo Keita, under Modibo Keita, a revolutionary, or do we want it to look like the way Mansa Musa had it, where he's going around tossing gold to people? So in order to preserve imperialism and capitalism worldwide, they're giving a few of us some crumbs so that we can have faith in this system and faith in this culture and faith in this method, but it has failed us. And one thing that they are doing is they are playing with our intelligence, but they are playing with fire. So what I'm saying is our people will gravitate to Africa. We can't do anything about that. But what we must do is they must be educated and they must be exposed to the history of our work in Africa. And what has happened is there's always been our history has not been hidden. It's been distorted and commercialized. When people talk about Martin Luther King, they talk about Gandhi's influence on him, Thoreau's influence on him, Emerson's influence on him. They don't talk about the fact that he went to Ghana and embraced Nkrumah. They don't talk about the fact that one of the mother figures of the civil rights movement, Ella Baker, was the first one in this country to condemn the invasion of Ethiopia. They don't talk about Louis Armstrong going to Ghana to perform for the national anthem. So what I'm saying is when we go back and look at the history of us embracing Africa in the tradition of struggle, in the tradition of resistance, and that is part and parcel of changing the narrative we have from victimization to resistance. And when we focus on resistance, we're going to get back on that trail. We're going to Africa to play a part in the redemption process. We're not going to liberate Africa. We are going to be part of the efforts to liberate Africa with those already doing that work. And we see how they're trying to stop it, but they're not going to be able to stop it because there are too many of us who want this. All we have to do is come together.
definitely, definitely. Now talking about not being aware of or just being ignorant, are you aware of ADOS in the United States?
ADOS and, of course, how can I not be? ADOS and FBA.
And the FBA, and I was going to mention that the Foundational Black Americans. And now you talk about those are existential threat to any kind of progress in bringing. You don't think that they are making inroads into confusing?
I would like to thank both of them for challenging our sense of humor.
Okay, you think because what they are doing is unrealistic, right?
No, I'm telling you, because basically, what are they asking for? They're just asking for things to be the way they are. If you go to Howard University right now, if you go to Duke University, Villanova University, you know what you have? At the white campuses, you have an African student union, Africans born on the continent, a Caribbean student union, and a Black student union. The Black student union are Africans born in North America. The Caribbean student union are the Africans born in the Caribbean, and the African student union are the Africans born on the continent. Do you think they work together like they're supposed to? We did a program at Howard University, the Children's Theater Company, a few years ago. We did a play called Same Neighborhood, Different Perspectives, a conversation between Colin Powell and Kwame Ture. And the African Student Union co-sponsored it, the Caribbean Student Union co-sponsored it, and the student government co-sponsored it. That was their first activity that year working together. So what they're basically saying is, let's keep things like that. What they're saying is, let's teach at the historical Black colleges and universities, let's teach Afro-American history before 1865 or after 1865. Let's keep it like that. Let John Lewis and George, let John Lewis and let some politicians like John Lewis and George Bush hook up and have a museum that starts our history in 1619 in Jamestown, Virginia, and disregards our history before Jamestown, Virginia. So basically, that's what they're asking for. There are some of them who say, why Africans born on the continent playing in the playing movies in Hollywood. And so what is our response supposed to be? Those of us who weren't born in the United States or born in the African continent, we're supposed to come back and emotionally say, why did why did Denzel Washington play Steve Biko? Why did Morgan Freeman play Mandela? Why did Danny Glover play Mandela? Why did Sidney Poitier play Mandela? So once you begin to pay attention to it, it doesn't make any sense at all. So, but like I said, one of the most beautiful characteristics of history is the challenges that it imposes on us. And fighters are going to connect with fighters regardless. Nothing can be done about that. For example, I'm born in London. I lived in Nigeria. I've spent most of my time in Washington, D.C. When I organize in Washington, D.C., people don't say I'm not welcome to organize. The front line is for everybody. So, and we don't want anything from this country but the opportunity to force it to pull its plug. It has earned the right to be done away with. So we're part of that struggle. So no one can tell us that we can't be part of that struggle. And all we're going to do is keep coming up with activities. So when, like the Cuban project, the Get Out of Cuba Way project, that is the fight to bring Cuban medical personnel here, to treat our people here, but at the same time, it's dealing with Africa. Many of these people misunderstand Pan-Africanism. They think Pan-Africanism means the continent exclusively. Pan means all. The example we would give them are the fraternities and sororities, the Pan-Hellenic organizations. They're the Zetas, the Deltas, the AKAs, the Sigmas, the Kappas, that they all belong to it. So all we're saying is Africa is the only place we have in common. We all don't have Australia in common, where we've been for 80,000 years. We all don't have India in common, where there are 160 million of us. We all don't have Nigeria in common, where we're approaching 200 million. But the one place we have in common, and and then some of them are talking about a bloodline. So they're saying that Brother Malcolm shouldn't have been allowed to contribute here. Brother Malcolm's mother was born in Grenada.
Exactly.
Kwame Ture, who was one of the most important organizers of the 1960s. He
Right.
and we want them to stop calling him Stokely Carmichael too, because that's disrespectful not only to him but to Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and Ahmed Sekou Toure, who he named himself after. So plantation love isn't anything new. And anytime they want to have a meaningful conversation about this, and we don't want to just have a regular conversation, we want to talk about the practical work we're doing that has Pan-African character. And we want them to talk about the things they're doing of a practical nature that are more domesticated. And you know, an animal is most potent when it's in the wild. We don't want to be domesticated. We've been politically domesticated long enough, culturally domesticated long enough. We are going to bury the amputated narrative of the African experience. And some of our sisters and brothers just have to go down with it. That's the law and nature of struggle, especially when you're on the revolutionary path. So anyone who's trying to cut us off from our main power source, then we're going to deal with that. And we're not speaking truth to power, Brother Robert. We're speaking truth about power so we can fight for power. Because if you don't have power, who gives a damn if you're speaking truth to power? We want power. And we're not going to have power until Africa is unified, liberated, and socialist. We want to share all the gold with everyone, all the copper with everyone, all the uranium with everyone. We don't want to leave anyone out. To me, a small percentage of Africans are getting fat off the wealth of the land because they're following behind our former colonizers and captors, and the masses have had enough of it.
Thank you very much, Obi Egbuna, for joining us today on Outlook Africa. Your contribution is very much appreciated, and we thank you very much for coming on the show today.
Okay, so long live Cuba, long live Zimbabwe, long live Mother Africa and her children at home and abroad. Africa must be free. Africa will be free. One unified socialist Africa, one unified socialist planet. We thank you.
Thank you very much, Obi.
All right.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today on Outlook Africa. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please tune in next week when we're going to have another guest, and who hopefully will show as much passion as Mr. Obi Egbuna showed today on the topic of Africa in Africa and Africans in diaspora. Thanks, and see you next time.